Sometimes we have to change course. Actually, more often than not, we have to change course. Today, we're going to talk about why it matters. And I tell you what, while we play the introduction, why don't you think of why it might matter to you and see if your reason matches one of ours? All that and more on today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom, good morning. Happy Tuesday.
Good morning. How are you today, Bob?
I'm doing well. Did you enjoy the celebration of your birthday? I saw that you did your birthday exercise workout. That's a big deal to you. Was there anything else in the festivities?
I went out to dinner with my wife and my daughter, so that was nice.
Nice.
And,
Nice.
got a lot of text messages and
You went to Applebee's, didn't you?
no, actually, we didn't.
McDonald's again.
No.
Do tell.
Texas Roadhouse was
All right, there you go.
one of my daughter's favorites, so she was,
Okay,
that's good to know.
nice.
And I weigh over 8, which is, it's one of those things like, it's your birthday. It only comes once a year. And then you just overeat.
Speak for yourself. No, I'm kidding. I've done it. It happens. It's a celebration day. You can do whatever you want.
Correct. It was interesting because when I went to the gym, the coach at the gym was like, "Well, how are you celebrating?" And that kind of like threw me for a guy who talks about celebrating every day.
We're going to have to work on that.
And then I said, I think I actually celebrate by going to the gym. And as I shared in that post on Facebook, I think it was, I said, I guess that as long as I can go to the gym, and I've probably been going to the gym on my birthday outside of 2020.
A lot.
Every year for probably like since 2017 or 18. And
Yes.
and so I guess, as I said, as long as I can go and do an Orange Theory workout, I won't consider myself old.
Okay.
Felt like it made sense at the time. So
We'll have to see how that plays out over time.
well, and someone said to me that makes sense until you can't, and then you just change it to something else. I'm like, you know what? It's a good idea. So
You mean changing course?
changing course, right?
Our topic of the week.
Correct. Yes, indeed. So why don't we dive into our show? Welcome to today's Antidote, our daily broadcast and podcast. Each week we have a conversation around a topic. This week's topic, as Bob mentioned, is changing course. And today we'll discuss why it matters. And as we go through that discussion, if you have thoughts or ideas that you would like to share, please feel free to put them in the comments of whatever social media you happen to be following us, because we know that it'll add value to our show, whether it is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or
LinkedIn Live, baby.
LinkedIn Live. Yes, indeed. We welcome your thoughts and ideas because we know it'll help us, and likely it might help someone else. And then at the end of the conversation, Bob and I will each offer our one thing, our today's antidote. That thing that we hope will help you, if you're stuck, maybe today or maybe somewhere down the road, figure out how to take your next step along your own unique pathway to success. And of course, we welcome any antidotes that you have that you would like to share, because we know that it'll add value and might be exactly what someone else is looking for. So please feel free to participate in our show. And before we dive into our topic every week, as we sort of preluded a little bit in our early conversation, we do a celebration of the day to get ourselves in the right headspace to move forward and talk about different things that have value for us. So, Bob, what are you celebrating today?
I'm going to celebrate the spider web. So there's a group of people that we all know that can help us. And over the last couple of days, I've had some people that have really gone out of their way to help me professionally, giving me some really great ideas, some really great leads, really opened some doors for me that honestly, I don't think would have been opened otherwise. And we all have that capacity. And what sparked it was just having honest discussions with people about what I wanted to accomplish. And then they drew on their network. They started to talk about what might be possible. And it was like, oh, I should connect you with this person. Oh, have you talked to this person? This guy knows this guy who saw you speak 3 years ago. I'm sure he'd be interested in talking to you. So there's a lot of that, which I know is really important. It's critical, but sometimes the start of that is what is more complicated. I know we're going to talk more about that in the coming weeks and months, but I just wanted to throw that out there because I saw the power of that big network to really help us move forward all day yesterday. I made 6 calls and sent 4 emails based on 3 people's suggestions yesterday.
Excellent. It's a good celebration.
Yes. How about you?
Well, when you first started out, I thought spiderwebs. I'm not really a fan.
Hey, they're really cool looking. When the sun hits them just right, don't mess with the spider web.
You mean like Charlotte's Web?
Yeah, or John's or Steve's. I mean, I don't think we should make every spider be named Charlotte.
Do you
Seems
remember
very narrow-minded, but
well, do you remember the book Charlotte's Web?
I do remember the book. Yes.
I wasn't sure that you knew where I was going.
I wanted to see how far I could take it before you said, there's a book, but you got there quickly.
Yes. Excellent.
How about you?
So, yesterday, as you mentioned at the beginning, it was my birthday yesterday. And so I went to the mailbox and I got my mail and I got my birthday card for my parents, which I always, which always seems to, they figure out how to get it there right on the exact day.
That's a skill parents have. No one else has it. Sometimes a grandmother has that skill.
Yes, I would agree.
Boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, never happens.
Some of them don't have to put them in the mail, which is helpful. But anyhow, so there was another card in there in the mail, and it was from Cape Cod.
Your AARP card.
I was looking for that, and I was trying to remember if it's 55 or 60 or when that shows up.
It's 50. It's 50. I've been there.
So I've already received it and didn't know that.
Should have received it. Yes.
I have to go back and double.
You can get 15% off at Denny's.
Excellent. I have to look into that.
I've used it.
So anyhow, I got this other card, and I was like, I wonder who that's from. So I brought it in the house and sat down a little bit later and opened my parents' card, which was nice, and then opened their card, this other card. And remember how I went up and taught those 2 workshops at the Chamber of Commerce, the Institute of Organizational Management?
Yes.
It was a note from one of the participants of the first class. And so for those who don't know, I went and taught these 2 courses in a week of workshops that they were doing as part of a 4-year cohort. So they sign up and they go through these one group of courses 1 year, and then the next, and the next, and the next, and they go together as a cohort. So I had the first class for the new cohort for this year. So they call themselves 1-1. So it was the first class of the first group. And the note was this really nice note saying how much they enjoyed the week, and then went on to say how my presentation, which was the first one, really set the stage for this person as it got them to open their mind and think a little differently about how they were moving forward and how they were looking at the other courses coming that week. I said, wow, that's really nice that someone would send a note. A lot of times you do things and you never hear whether they're, you might get, and I'm sure I will, because I know they do it. They did after the class, fill out a survey. You don't often get a handwritten note in the mail later that says of the value you provided. So that's my celebration.
Wow. And think about it. They had to figure out how to get it to you. They had to get the stamp, the envelope, write the note. That's a serious commitment.
That's old school, right? It's not just, hey, I could shoot them an email. I could find them on LinkedIn and send them a message there.
This wasn't the same person who said that you sounded like Dick Clark, right?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay. I was afraid that that's where you were going with this, that someone sent you a note and said, hey, we need someone to do voiceover work that sounds like Dick Clark. We'd like you to do it.
Fair. Yeah, no, it was, so that was a nice thing to read on my birthday. It's great.
Nice. I love that. That's a great celebration.
Yeah.
And what I like about Tom is you tell it in a way that's just honest, not egocentric, not I'm an amazing person, but around the idea of just changing someone, helping someone see the change in their life, which I think is really the more powerful part of it.
Well, and I also think it goes to that we do impact a lot of people, and many times there were probably other people who felt some level of value that they received from that class. And you would never hear back from them. And so you always kind of wonder, like, well, was it and so to actually get someone to provide some feedback is always really helpful. And at the same time, it's just feedback. And that doesn't mean that everybody loved the course, loved it, everybody thought it was eye-opening or mind-opening or whatever. It's just one person's perspective. Which the fact that they took the time and to do it in that way is nice. And it's just one more piece of feedback as a part of all the feedback you might get around any one thing. So
that whole influence thing is really powerful. And I had an experience about it over the weekend. Someone said to me, the least likely person in the world that I would have expected to say something about what we do in the program said, it was National Potato Day yesterday. And I looked at this person and just, interesting. I didn't know that you were consuming that content because I don't think it was widely publicized. I don't think the Today Show did a 8-minute feature on National Potato Day. I could be wrong. I haven't watched in a while. Al Roker's probably tossed back a couple of potatoes au gratin in his career, but it's amazing how you have an impact and how you reach people that you don't think you reach with all your actions.
Sure.
I picked up a piece of trash outside the grocery store about a week and a half ago, and a woman came up to me in the store and said, I want to give you this. And she handed me a candy bar that she had bought me. And it was just, she said, I can't believe that you just stopped your life to pick up that piece of trash that was in the middle of the parking lot. It said something. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. Wasn't a type of candy bar I'd eat, but
I hope you didn't tell her that.
I did not.
Oh, that's good.
All right. Well, let's almond joy.
Let's change course a little bit here.
All right. Let's change course.
So we were talking about changing course all week. And today yesterday we talked a little bit about the challenges. Today we're going to talk about why it matters. You want to dive into that first for us, Bob?
Sure. I think one of the biggest challenges we all face professionally and personally is when to make a change. It's hard to know when to make a change, and changing course, as we talked about yesterday, can be scary. It can be worrisome. It can be fraught with potential issues, but there's a point where you realize sometimes you have no choice, and sometimes it just sounds like the better alternative. I've been in situations before where it's like, just choose. And sometimes I think we put up, and I've done the list of pros and cons. One of the things I've noticed over the course of my career, and I've used pros and cons lists to pick jobs, change things. When there are more of one column than the other, it's usually the shorter column that's the column that I end up taking.
Interesting. Don't get too deep into knowing when.
Okay.
That's tomorrow.
I will not. All right. I won't go there. You're right.
I just wanted to remind you of that. So
yes, thank you. So when we talk about it, I think it has a real power within an organization to affect others. When people see someone willing to make change, I think that encourages them to feel more comfortable in making change themselves. And whether we like it or not, we're always changing. Mm-hmm. This program, we're in 600 some odd episodes. It's changed a lot. Some of it we've consciously talked through and said, we should change and add this and do this. Some has been organic. Some has been outside suggestions. And some has just been plain necessity. When we started this, LinkedIn Live wasn't even a thing. And now LinkedIn Live, baby. every day. So we've had to adapt to the technology. We've had to adapt to the opportunities. Otherwise, when we become stagnant, we run the risk of becoming irrelevant. And I know that we've reached people on LinkedIn Live that we would not have reached otherwise. They don't consume content on Facebook. They don't go to Twitter. They don't go to Instagram. They don't go to all those others. And so sometimes change is thrust upon us. And sometimes we have that opportunity to make changes. And I think often when we make a change in our course, it causes other changes that we didn't anticipate that can be powerful in their own way. And I'm going to steal what I know you're going to say. Every time we make a change, we're learning, we're gathering new information, we're getting new knowledge, experience, and perspectives, which will better inform us going forward.
Yeah, that's a little bit of what I was going to say. That's just fine.
I think I'd steal it from you one time.
That's okay. I think it's one of those things that it goes back to, if we always do what we have always done, we'll always get what we always got. And I think that's sometimes feels like that's the best thing to do. And it's hard, right? It's hard to have change, because what we've been doing is comfortable. Yet I think it's that uncomfortableness of change that allows us to open and discover new things. It may seem hard, and yet I think it allows us to maybe discover things that we had never thought about. I was thinking about this morning, and for the longest time, one of my goals was to be the vice president of an entire development operation in a college or university.
The ones that gather the money from donors and
correct, raise money.
Some of us don't have that working knowledge.
Sorry. Engage alumni, all that type of stuff. and at some point, I just realized that it wasn't what it was, or wasn't going to happen, maybe is what it is. And I won't dive into that, because that's kind of knowing how. And what I've discovered from the change, and I think why it mattered, was it allowed me to find a truth maybe that I didn't really imagine, or something I thought about a long time ago. I got into the idea of coaching, and it reminded me how much I wanted to be a coach when I was coming out of college. And I think I've talked about this before, but I wanted to be a basketball coach at that time. That was my thinking. And what I realized is that there were lots of ways to coach people. And so it was discovering something that took a skill set that I had, an understanding of nonprofit space, and another interest that I had that was in coaching, and how I melded the two together. And what's fascinating is that it's similar to a shift or a change of course that I made earlier in my career, when I went from doing general work for all alumni to being a little more focused on work within athletics. And it was the same type of thing, as I had the opportunity to match a skill set with an interest. And I think it provided a new perspective on the opportunities that were out there. And I think when we change course, we have an opportunity to discover new opportunities, which is a little bit what you were saying. And like I said, there are always obstacles that come along with every opportunity. And, I think that those even minor changes help us discover things that we otherwise never would have discovered. And so I think that that's, one of the pieces of what makes it so valuable to consider, and to actually then change course, so you can see things that you otherwise wouldn't have seen.
I was talking to someone a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about driving to work, and they had to go to work 15 minutes earlier one day because of a doctor's appointment at the end of the day, and they need to leave 15 minutes early. So they went to work 15 minutes earlier, and the 45-minute drive was a 27-minute drive. And so now they're doing the 27-minute drive, and they found the same thing on the way home. And it was just by happenstance. It wasn't that they got up one morning and said, this 45-minute drive is killing me. It was, I have an obligation to accomplish this thing in this way. And they found a real big discovery that saved them 27, 26 minutes 28 minutes, I guess, every day. And I think that's how it is sometimes. And if it worked the other way, if they had realized that their 45-minute drive by leaving 15 minutes earlier took them an hour and 15 minutes,
Right.
the 45-minute drive would have looked a lot better to them the next day.
Right.
And so I think sometimes we think it's got to be, this is amazing, this is the greatest choice I ever made in my life. But I think sometimes finding out that it wasn't the best choice and then going back to something or figuring out from there can be really powerful in helping us lead better, manage better, and also work better.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny, as you were starting to talk, I started to think about my one thing, and and I think that would be it, is that it allows us to better understand what we have been doing, and we see the possibilities. Again, possibilities aren't always, as we talked about last week, I think, aren't only the positives as what we would consider positive. There are other things that are things that we understand as, I changed course and it didn't really excite me, or didn't work the way I thought, rather than it being 45 minutes, it was an hour and a half. And so then I was able to go back, and I still, even though I went back to something that I was doing, I had a new perspective on it. And that 45 minutes that seemed like forever, it was now like, wow, 45 minutes isn't so bad, because it could be an hour and a half, and how much worse that would feel. And so I think that being willing to change course allows us to discover more. Again, we learn, and when we're open to learning and knowing that we can decide, and I think one of the challenges that we face is when we change course, it's very easy to judge what we used to do, either as quote unquote the right way to do it, or quote unquote the wrong way to do it, and spend a lot of time in that judgment rather than in the learning of, that's interesting. Well, I guess I won't go, or I guess I'll go 15 minutes earlier because it's saving me a ton of time. Or I made this shift in my career and it didn't really work the way I thought it would. And so I'm going to go back to the path that I was on before. And I think that those are the things that we're able to discover. And I think when you're open and willing to learn, you can discover a lot of things that will have a significant impact on your pathway.
I agree. I'm going to say it a different way very quickly. My one thing would be that when you change courses or course, you bring context to what you've done. And that context allows you to look at it in new ways. It shifts that angle of your perspective ever so slightly, or maybe a lot. And you can see, I know I've been in acting roles at companies for a couple weeks or a month, and it's like, wow, I had no idea why he was always late for meetings until I realized that every 5 seconds someone was coming in with the problem.
Sure.
In another situation, I had no idea why they were never able to get the simple stuff done. It's because they were dealing with giant headaches. And I think that changing course, just in taking a different role for a day, or even answering the phones for an hour for someone else, and realizing, wow, I didn't realize I get 20 calls an hour. Instead, I thought it was 3 or 4. I thought it was piece of cake. No, it was 20 serious calls. That perspective doesn't just help us grow in that moment. I think we carry it on throughout our career. There are things that I discovered when I was 17, 18, 19 years old that I still draw on in my career. Just like, oh, I learned that. So this is not just about changing course in the moment and you discover things for today. It's a lifelong lesson that you can't unlearn.
Correct. Or you just keep learning, if you're willing to keep learning and remembering, I guess, is part of it, right? Sometimes it's hard to remember all the things that we've learned along the pathway. And yet many times some of those things can be really valuable as we consider, like, what is the next step to take? So I love that. All right. If you have one thing you'd like to share, please feel free to put it in the comments, because we know it will add value. For those in the podcast who can't see, Bob was pointing downward, encouraging people to put thoughts in the comments. And we know that if you're listening to the podcast, unfortunately, there is no place to comment. Bob is working on that as well.
I am.
And so we encourage you to go to our Ring of Renegades Facebook group, where you can post your thoughts and ideas around changing course and why it matters. We'll be talking about changing course all week. And so there's probably someone in there who might be looking for exactly what you have to share, or someone there may share exactly what you are looking for to help you figure out how to take your next step along your own unique pathway to success. So we look forward to seeing you inside our Ring of Renegades Facebook group, or we'll see you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Eastern time, for our next episode of today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, embrace the renegading you and go to that Ring of Renegades Facebook group. There's a really good poll there that I'm fascinated by the results of. It's how likely are you to try something new? I thought I knew what the results would be, and those results are not matching up to what I thought. So join our Ring of Renegades Facebook group and you can contribute to the poll. You can see the results. You can even comment.
And you might learn something along the way.
That's it. There you go.
All right, everybody, go
change your course.
You might even change your course. Fascinating. All right, everybody, go out and make it a great day. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.